Bob Lazar's story has credible experts to confirm his work. Evidence of Bob Lazar's employment as a physicist, George Knapp and others have credited his story. Find out more in this video. Bob Lazar is the most important entity in exposing the alleged secret activities related to extraterrestrial and UFOs happening at Area 51. He is widely recognized as the Area 51 whistleblower who revealed aliens and the government worked together in secret bases in 1989. 30 years ago, he claimed to have worked as an engineer near Area 51 at a hangar called S4. There, as he claims, UFOs with tiny alien seats were made out of a material called Element 115. Bob has long claimed that he was hired as a physicist at Los Alamos in May of 1982. As evidence of his employment as a physicist, Bob Lazar, George Knapp, and others who have credited his story have pointed to a Los Alamos Monitor article published on June 30, 1982. The author of the article, Terry England, wrote the following. To Lazar, a physicist at the Los Alamos Meson Physics Facility, the important thing is the jet engine. It's something he's been working on for years. Whether or not England had made any efforts to verify that Lazar was, in fact, a physicist at Los Alamos has been debated ever since. Bob Lazar himself gave an interview on the radio show The Billy Goodman happening on December 20, 1989. I have 2 master's degrees, one's in physics, one's in electronics. I wrote my thesis on MHD, which is magnetohydrodynamics. I worked at Los Alamos for a few years as a technician, and then as a physicist in the polarized proton section, dealing with the accelerator there. In this interview, a month after Knapp's first report identifying him, Bob claims that he was hired as a technician and remained in that role for a few years before becoming a physicist. Lazar confirms in the Los Alamos Monitor article that he had only just moved to Los Alamos the month before. Separately, Los Alamos has verified that he began work at the lab on May 18, 1982. George Knapp has claimed that he has spoken with former employees who worked with Bob and verified that he was a physicist. However, these claims were made informally and off the record. The physicist. Here we identify 2 former lab employees who worked directly with Bob and were able to speak to what he did at Los Alamos and the circumstances of his departure. The first former lab employee is the physicist who ran the lab Bob claimed he worked in as a physicist, the polarized proton section. This physicist's name is John Jarmare. Jarmare worked at the lab for over 2 decades in the polarized proton section. John Jarmare, Bob Lazar, and Joe Vanninetti's lab directory entries. Bob's friend and colleague Joe Vanninetti, who worked in the lab as a technician with him, is listed as an author on multiple original research papers alongside John Jarmare. There is confirmation from multiple former lab employees and documentation that Jarmare worked as Bob Lazar's direct supervisor in the polarized proton section. Dr. Robert Krangle. In 2019, Jeremy Corbell released an interview with Dr. Robert Krangle. Dr. Krangle is an MIT-educated scientist who has consulted for Los Alamos National Laboratory at various times since 1980. In the interview, Corbell and Krangle have the following exchange. Corbell, was it your impression that he was a concession stand salesman or a janitor? Krangle, he was dressed wrong to be the janitor. Corbell, so how did you know Bob, and in what capacity was he there working from your knowledge, what was he? Krangle, well, he was a physicist, which I'm a physicist, we kind of recognize each other. You know, it's the classic pocket condom with all of the proper different colored pens. He fit that mold. If nobody would have told me he's a physicist, one look, he's a physicist. Corbell, did people tell you he was a physicist? Was that ever explained to you? Kringle, in some conversations, somebody would be talking about what somebody was doing, and they'd point over, oh yeah, and that's him over there. Corbell, but you did know that he was a physicist? Kringle, yes. Corbell, and that was very clear to you that he was a physicist at Los Alamos and not like the janitor? Kringle, yes. What are your thoughts? Please leave a comment beneath the video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.